express your
No,
opinions,
we
but
do.
not on people's property.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Sure.
Just respectfully.
Sure.
So we're just saying, absolutely, your signs and everything, and that's good. This is not the way to do it.
Okay.
It's private property.
But if I did live here and it was my property, this would be absolutely fine.
Totally.
And you
did
don't
live
know
here,
if I live here or if this is my
actually,
property.
We actually do know. That's why we're asking.
Oh, really? Because you live here, right? You said so.
Because we know the person who does live.
Oh, okay.
So what you just saw there was another Karen, another instance of a white woman exercising her privilege over a minority by saying, in this instance, you know, I know the owners. I know the people who really live there. And so what you're doing by writing Black Lives Matter is in fact wrong. When of course he is the owner and he does live there and he was writing Black Lives Matter in chalk on his own home. And so, you know, for her to jump to such conclusions, for her to make such assumptions really goes to show you how messed up it is, because this was in a higher income area of San Francisco. And so she was just assuming that because he was a minority, he doesn't really belong there. Now, I want to show you the full clip so you can get the full context here, because I think it's really valuable. So here is the full clip.
Is this your property? Hi, I'm asking you if this is your property.
Why are you asking?
Because
Well,
it's private property.
Because it's private property,
So,
sir.
are you defacing private property, or is this your building? You're free to express your
No,
opinions,
we
but
do.
not on people's property.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Sure.
Just respectfully.
Sure.
So we're just saying, absolutely, your signs and everything, and that's good. This is not the way to do it.
Okay.
It's private property.
But if I did live here and it was my property, this would be absolutely fine.
Totally.
And you
did
don't
live
know
here,
if I live here or if this is my property.
We actually do know. That's why we're asking.
Oh, really? Because you live here, right? You said so.
Because we know the person who does live.
Oh, okay.
So
Then
that's all
I
we
suggest
wanted to
you
ask.
call
I'm
him
not
or
disagreeing with
call the
you.
police,
Why do you
or
wanna call the police?
because
Did you
you're
want me
accusing me
to?
of a crime, correct?
What I'm asking you is why are you
And I'm
doing
not
this?
answering you.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair.
So your choices are to call the cops if you believe I'm calling a crime, and I will more than be happy to talk to him.
Okay, thank you.
What's your name again?
I'm Lisa.
Lisa, what's your last name?
What is your name?
What's your name? I asked
I'm
first,
not
Lisa.
committing a crime,
What's your name, sir? What's your last name, sir?
What is your first name, sir?
I'm not answering. I'm not talking to you. You're talking to me. I'm asking you the questions.
Well, we're not doing anything illegal.
Neither am I.
Yes,
Actually,
you
you
are
are. Because
actually.
it's
Really?
private property.
Oh, okay. Well, then call the cops.
Thank you. We will do so.
Lisa and Robert.
Yeah.
I'll be right here.
Okay, thank you. So
Bye. And that, people, is why Black Lives Matter.
So again there, you see her claiming that she knows the owners, that she knows the people who really live there, and so it's not okay for him to be writing something on someone's home. She's assuming, of course, that because he's a minority, he must not really live there, or that because he's a minority, he must be committing a crime. A wealthier area of San Francisco, so of course it can't be that he lives there, and it can't be, of course, that, you know, an owner of that kind of property would be writing a message like Black Lives Matter on their own home. And so it is a truly outrageous, it is a truly disgusting thing to see. Now, there are some really crazy developments to this story that I want to update you guys on, which is that, you know, it appears apparently that the husband, or some people are claiming that he's the boyfriend, I've seen conflicting reports on that, of the San Francisco Karen, loses his job after the video went viral. So, you know, he was apparently like a high-ranking banker at a particular firm, and he's lost his job, saying that, you know, the firm does not support the values, does not support the things which he did in that video and the actions which you know occurred. And you know, my opinion on that is like I think that that's generally the right decision. I mean, mostly though, it was her, it was the Karen, it was, you know, San Francisco Karen there doing the things, and he was just kind of standing along, going along with her. So some people are saying that it might be a little bit extreme, but I certainly understand the actions of the bank, that, you know, they wouldn't have wanted to lose business being associated with someone who does things like that, who does actions like that. And of course, with the general mood of the country right now and how people are really feeling when it comes to Black Lives Matter, movements like defund the police, et cetera, have so much power right now that, you know, they feel like they're going to lose business. So no doubt that that was involved in why that ultimate decision was being made. But what's really, really crazy, and what I really want to update you guys on, is that this is in the context of, and I should add that she did end up calling the police on him. She did walk away and called the police on him. Fortunately, the police officers basically knew the guy and were like, whatever, I know that you live there. So that was very, very fortunate. But this, of course, comes in the context of the implicit bias trainer of San Francisco finds that there's a significant degree of anti-black sentiment within the San Francisco Police Department. And so they quit their job and left. Now, this was from a few months ago. This was from back in February. But nonetheless, it does show, I mean, this is, within the relevant time frame to show that this could be something which could be particularly dangerous to call the police on a minority. Now, in this instance, the person filming it was Filipino and so was not black, but nonetheless, being a minority, it still is in that same context, in that same realm, where police officers are very likely to just immediately assume that you're guilty and immediately listen to the white person who is calling and complaining about something. And so you can see here, email from the implicit bias trainer as he left the job at San Francisco Police Department. The degree of anti-black sentiment throughout the SFPD is extreme, in that the officers possess and exude a deeply rooted anti-black sentiment. So it's incredibly just crazy and disgusting and obviously racist to see something like that. And just the fact that as a white woman, she sees herself in a position of privilege. She sees herself as a position where she calls the cops. She knows that the police officers are going to listen to her. Whereas you call the cops on a black person, on a minority, on a person of color, and oftentimes they're going to be immediately convicted of something. We saw this happen actually not too long ago. We saw this just a few days ago. This was in California, and you can see there the police chief was responding after a black man was handcuffed for dancing in the street. So what happened in this instance was, a man was literally dancing in the sidewalk right in front of his own home with his earbuds in. It was part of an exercise routine, and someone called the cops saying that they thought it was an instance of, someone who may have been drunk or someone who may have had some kind of mental illness. And what ended up happening was he was handcuffed. In fact, not just handcuffed, this headline is slightly misleading. He was handcuffed, pinned to the ground, shoved to the ground, and actually was hit on the head by a group of police officers saying that, oh, he was resisting arrest, that he was, really fighting the officers, when all he was really doing was yelling, hey, this is ridiculous, man, because he's literally just exercising, and someone called the cops on him. And fortunately, he wasn't killed in the way that we see with many of these other instances. But it just goes to show you that, you bring a gun into a situation, you bring in people with the mindset of police, and it's always going to be dangerous. Calling the police for a situation like a Karen-like situation is always dangerous and is always a bad idea, because you have to remember that you're escalating. You're escalating to the level of a gun. You're literally bringing a gun into what is oftentimes a kind of verbal argument, or an instance where, someone might be drunk, or there might be an instance of mental health or mental illness. And so, for a Karen like that, for the San Francisco Karen there to do something like that, to call the police, really goes to show the mindset of Karens, the kind of privilege that they really do. They see the police officers as a kind of protection agency, the way that Amy Cooper from, the Central Park Karen said of how she conceived of policing previously. The kind of deep racism that goes on in this country, the, long-standing ability of, white tears and white fears to be weaponized against black people in this country has been going on since the beginning, since the roots of this country. And it's finally time, and it's finally good to see at least some of that having a light shown on it. That for the first time, because of video cameras, because of emerging technology, we're able to see these instances quite clearly, and we're able to have some prosecution. But in my opinion, the prosecution of it, right, the fact that, he lost his job, the fact that, the San Francisco Karen there, who was a CEO of a makeup company, a bunch of companies, stopped doing business with her brand because of that, right? Because of that. But I don't think that the prosecution, the fact that he lost his job, et cetera, that's really the important part. I think that in some sense, that's the, that's the side effect. The important part, though, is that you and I, we are all able to see these videos and are able to get a better idea of what's going on and the kinds of things that are truly oppressing people, the kinds of things that are really going on around the country. I mean, we just saw not too long ago, there was an instance of a black man who was riding his bike around the neighborhood, and the cops stopped him. Why'd they stop him? Because he didn't have a bell on his bike, which was apparently required in that, you know, I guess that community. They required that everybody have a bike or have a bell on their bike so they could, you know, ring and have people, I guess, move. And he was just sort of, you know, minding his own business in the bike lane, and he was stopped because he didn't have a bell on his bike, and he was in fact handcuffed for it, and said that he looked suspicious and all kinds of other things. So, you know, there is a clear need for police reform in this country, and the fact that there's a lot of people out there who aren't willing to engage in some kind of police reform really goes to show you the kind of blindness that are going on among a lot of people. So anyway, I just wanted to update you guys on what's going on with San Francisco Karen, talk a little bit about it, because it is completely ridiculous. It does go to show you the kinds of deep racism which can exist even among people who may not really think of themselves as racist. All right, you guys, thanks for watching this video. If you liked it, I'd really appreciate it if you hit the like button and consider subscribing. Thanks.